Hi, soulmates. Plenty to talk about. Lots of good conversation on this Friday, February 24th. It includes the latest in R. Kelly's sentencing, plus what's being done in Washington about toxic hair products. We want to welcome you to Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Plus what one woman did at a Popeyes that now has her behind bars, and what Rihanna has planned for her fans following her Super Bowl performance. They're the stories that impact our people.
Our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get to the top of today's conversation. It takes us to New York, with a family of a 19-year-old gay black man found dead on train tracks in New York demanded answers and justice at a vigil held last night. DeAndre Matthews disappeared earlier this month after borrowing his mom's car. Now, police say he was found a few days later, shot in the head. His body was burned, and it was left on freight train tracks in Brooklyn. His death has been ruled a homicide. No arrests have been made, and the case remains under investigation. Matthews was studying criminal justice at a local community college and was described as calm, silly, and a friendly person. And his mom went on to say that he was just a beautiful soul, never had issues with the law. And she was just devastated to get the phone call. They found the abandoned car first by way of a tracking system, and that wasn't good news because the car was damaged, it was burned, and he was found hours later. It's just a tragic story.
It's a tragic story, but it's also a reminder of the hate crimes, the uptick in hate crimes that we've seen across the country. Even his mother and his sister believe that this was a hate crime. When I first read the story, it appeared to me to show signs of being a hate crime. And it's a reminder that if you are black and gay, black and LGBTQ in communities across the country, you're feeling that anti-black hate, that anti-LGBTQ hate. I could not imagine receiving the phone call that your son has been shot in the head and thrown onto a train track. And so this is a stunning reminder of the hate and the violence that's out there.
No suspects. Of course, we don't have a motive just yet. So this is one of those stories that we'll have to stay on top of.
That's right. Well, in Nashville, Tennessee, there's a bill that's in the final steps of becoming law that would criminalize certain drag shows and ban transgender therapy for children. The law would make Tennessee the first state to ban public drag, which could also affect LGBTQ pride celebrations and transgender people who are in shows of any kind. There are currently 20 bills in 15 U.S. states aimed at drag queen performances. The drag bill heads to the Senate for one final vote on a last-minute amendment. The children's transgender therapy ban heads to the governor's desk.
So what do you think the fear is, Nicordelai? What's the fear?
I mean, in the end, this bill prevailed on a party line or a near party line vote on the bill to ban transgender therapy. Representatives Yusef Hakeem of Chattanooga, Representative Joe Towns Jr. of Memphis, Representative Antonio Parkinson, also of Memphis. They joined every single Republican to vote for this bill. And so, oftentimes when we report on this, we think it's just folks on the right. It's just Republicans that are behind these anti-LGBTQ bills. In Tennessee, there are Democrats, that are supporting this, and this endangers children. I was just saying, with regard to the case in Brooklyn, that there are a lot of black and LGBTQ kids out there that are having to endure a lot of anti-black hate and anti-LGBTQ hate, and bills like this don't make it easier.
Well, for me, I love a good drag show. I spent a lot of time in Miami on the Strip, and so from that aspect, it's great entertainment. I think that the participants are just extraordinary performers, how they embody, the artists that they imitate and emulate. I think it's an art form. The makeup is extraordinary. The facade is extraordinary, and I just enjoy it. So I don't understand why people are having a hard time with drag. It's an art form. It's a form of expression, and the illusion. They're like illusionists, and they're incredible. So you ask me, it's a good time. There's a place in Chicago. used to always go to. Anytime you visit Miami Beach, you can get a good drag show. I enjoy it. I don't see what the riffraff is all about. It's no different from somebody being a rapper, somebody being a skateboarder, somebody being a ventriloquist. I don't know. I just don't understand why there is just such rage behind what I would consider artistry and entertainment.
Yeah, but what is so upsetting is that you have folks that believe that drag queens make us unsafe, that drag queens are doing something untoward, that drag queens are somehow grooming kids to do inappropriate things, and that's not the case. It is so absolutely infuriating to see folks going after folks that are just performing in drag, or young kids, that are transgender, that, are just looking to get the therapy they need to be who they are, And so, while this bill is making a lot of progress in Tennessee, I hope that it is the last bill that we see and not the first of many to come.
Well, for me, when a drag queen can do Diana Ross better than Diana Ross, that is something to see. All right, moving on here. R. Kelly will remain in prison until he is at least 80. U.S. attorneys wanted an extra 25 years on top of the 30 he's already serving, but the judge only added one more year. That judge also sentenced him to 19 years, but that will be served during the same time he's in prison for New York charges. Now, this means R. Kelly will be serving 31 total years. Kelly was convicted last year, you may remember, in a Chicago federal court for child pornography and enticement charges. His attorney says she will appeal the decision not only in Illinois, but also in New York. Kelly is still facing an indictment in Minnesota. And when we were talking earlier about his case, we were trying to, it goes back to that argument or that debate. Can you separate the music from the man? I know when this story broke, I was doing radio and television, more radio than TV, and radio was like, we're done with the music, that we can't play this music anymore. Black radio hasn't gone back to R. Kelly. But every now and again, you're at a family get together, you're at a holiday soiree, and you go hear R. Kelly record every now and again. At least I have, on people's playlists. So I think it's still a hot debate in our culture, in our community. Can you separate the man from the music? People have grown up on that music. Babies have been born to that music. It's a part of your soundtrack, in particular areas and times of your life. And for some people, it's a no-go. And for others, it's like, I'm gonna still enjoy his music.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if there wasn't such a large volume of charges against R. Kelly, cases against R. Kelly, there's been the Illinois case, there's been the New York case, we're hearing that there's a Minnesota case, right? And all this points to him being sort of a serial sexual predator. And so, it's become harder and harder and harder for those of us that may have some R. Kelly on our phones, in our music libraries. We may have it on shuffle, and occasionally, hear Step in the Name of Love or something else. It's becoming harder and harder and harder to separate the artist from the predator.
Well, that's what you say, but there are definitely some people and some fans out here who still celebrate him, as an artist who, his birthday rolls around, I lived in Chicago for 12 years, so on my feed, there's a lot of folks who, wish him happy birthday and shout out to him every now and again. I see his friends still post about him. So there are some folks who are either seeing past it or know that it's there and it doesn't bother them as much.
I would argue a lot of the folks that were part of Mute R. Kelly, are probably on the side of the ledger where it's like, it's becoming harder and harder to listen to his music. This guy is problematic, and so I'm with them. It's hard to listen to him. This is madness. Case after case after case. But moving along, a pregnant woman in Florida is arguing that she should be released from jail pending her murder trial because her unborn fetus is innocent. 24-year-old Natalia Harrell is accused of fatally shooting 28-year-old Gladys Borcella during an argument inside an Uber vehicle last summer. Ms. Harrell, who was 6 weeks pregnant at the time of her arrest on second-degree murder charges, is currently being held at a Miami-Dade Correctional Center. Now, Courtney, Ms. Harrell's attorney told sources that an unborn child has rights independent of its mother, even though it's still in the womb. And he went on to say that the unborn child has been deprived of due process in the law, this incarceration. And so this is presenting a really tricky case, for authorities in Florida, because, essentially, if the defense is successful in this motion, then what does that mean for other pregnant women that are incarcerated, right? Do they have rights? And on top of that, do their unborn children have rights as well?
Well, for at least 9 months, that baby is going to be housed inside of that mother who has violated the law. And who has to, face that. And so I hear the argument. It's a very interesting argument. But right now, that baby does not live on the outside, if you will, of that mother. And right now, I think, it's the mother dealing with her transgressions. And, as that pregnancy moves along and that baby comes on out, maybe there's room for some sort of argument there. But right now, I don't see it.
Yeah. I don't see it either.
I don't see it. All right, Washington State joins other U.S. states in banning toxic chemicals in cosmetics after a state-funded study found that chemicals could be particularly problematic for women of color. You don't say. We've been talking about this here on Fox Soul's Black Report. Now, the study identified preservatives such as formaldehyde and contaminants like lead and arsenic in cosmetics, which have been linked to damage of the brain and nervous system. CoverGirl, foundation, and other products containing toxic chemicals are banned in Europe. Several other states, including California and Colorado, have already taken steps to ban harmful chemicals in cosmetics, as federal regulators have limited authority over the issue. And it's not just cosmetics; there's just a myriad of hair care products. There's these videos running now on social media, and they pretty much dial into Black women and the products that we use on our hair. And so you see the person turning the ingredients around, highlighting the particular ingredient that is toxic. Or is known to cause, cancer and other ailments, if you will. And they also list how these products are not allowed in certain countries. So, when you think about it, there's a lack of humanity in regards to putting these products out here that contain these ingredients. And I think just the bottom line is greed. Because if you don't care, if there is no humanity, you're not going to care about, the effects. And I think it's all based in greed. And we know what America is known for. It's like, it's money, money, money. It's all about the bottom line. And if these products are out here with these toxic chemicals and they know that it's going to do the damage.
But my rule of thumb is, when you purchase products for your hair, try and purchase the products that have the least amount of chemicals that are listed in there.
But usually those are the more expensive ones. So, sometimes
sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. I have stuff in my cabinet that doesn't have a lot of ingredients and it isn't all that expensive. But, you're right. I mean, these products, the long-term effect of these products, whether we're talking about hair products or makeup, I mean, a lot of this stuff isn't natural. And so it's no surprise, that we have reactions to them, sometimes very latent. I mean, remember the whole baby powder thing? Johnson & Johnson got in a whole lot of trouble and got a series of lawsuits, I think a class action lawsuit, for a lot of people that have been using the powder, in their sheets and, dousing themselves with
marketing
with
and promotion, and conditioning as to what we're taught this product is supposed to do for us, and the trust we have in the product.
But sometimes we don't know the long-term effects of that, and so there are folks that are alleging that the connection between that powder and ovarian cancer or other forms of cancer, and so I'm just saying, we never know, and so in the meantime, look for less products listed on your favorite product. That's all I'm saying. Well, moving along, new data from Pew Research Center shows that 63% of men under 30 are electively single, up from 51% in 2019. Researchers relate this trend to social media and online pornography. Close your ears, Mom. Which allow young men to satisfy their desires without leaving home. Men also prefer alone time due to the COVID-19 epidemic. Nonetheless, nearly 1 in 5 American men have no close friends. I couldn't believe that, suggesting a wider problem of isolation and loneliness among young men and women. Women, on the other hand, they have prioritized emotional relationships and friendships. What say you? Courtney Hicks?
You know what? Listen. During my single days, I always knew I was a wife. I always knew that was for me, and I feel that as far as my maturity and my wisdom, I felt like I was already a wife before I met my husband. That's why this transition has been, for me, seamless. But I dated guys who I thought were just great marriage material. I thought maybe we were on the same page. And they just wanted to be single. They were just not the marrying type. And it had nothing to do with maybe a crazy background or a horrible relationship with their mom. They just preferred to be single. And a lot of that hurt because I just couldn't understand. Hey, we're two great people. Let's get together. Let's make this life happen. And if a guy is not ready, or if that's not what he wants, especially with, or, you know, you could have same-sex relationships. It could be in the same situation. But if someone is not ready, there is nothing you can do to make them ready. And so you have to make that decision to say, you know what, I really like this person a lot. I'm really dig. They smell good. They got everything's together. They just do it for me. But sometimes you just have to move on because you're not going to get them ready until they're ready, if they're ever ready. And there are some people out there, men in this particular case, who just prefer to be single.
Yeah, but I mean, I also think it's not unusual for men under the age of 30. So 63% of men under the age of 30 are selectively single. That's not unusual. When I think back to my 20s, that was not unusual for a lot of us to be single and play in the field and getting to know people. It's not like you got a whole lot of money.
There's another study that
20s.
says men usually age 10 years after women. So if they're 30 and under, that means they're like 20 in real life as far as, the maturity.
Yeah.
So maybe it just takes a little longer. But I mean, people are just I don't think whether it's 30, 40. I mean, I've met guys in their 60s and they're like, now I want to do it. So it's like, okay, well, let me move on and find somebody who is marriage or relationship material.
Well, I'm just saying, for all the folks out there that say men don't know what they want, well, 63% of them, they're very clear about what they want. Just saying.
In Augusta, Georgia, that's where I used to live. It seems like someone really wanted their biscuits at Popeyes. 50-year-old Belinda Miller intentionally crashed her SUV in the restaurant after not getting the biscuit she wanted in her order, resulting in charges of felony aggravated assault and criminal damage to property. The manager reported the incident with injuries to the sheriff's deputies, and Miller had also made threats to the staff beforehand. One employee narrowly avoided being hit by Miller's car during the crash, and Miller fled the scene. She was later taken into custody after arrest warrants were issued. There's only like 2 Popeyes locations in Augusta, Georgia. I spent a few years, though. Beautiful city. Hey, y'all. But let me tell you what happened to me last night.
The home of James Brown.
The home of James Brown. Let me tell you what happened last night, because me and my husband had Popeyes last night. I went to go pick it up. So a lady made an online order to pick up in the store. She came in, and it sounds like to me the order was closed out before she added her apple pie, because she said she had a coupon for an apple pie, and she walked in there talking about, I need my apple pie. I walked into the restaurant because the drive-thru was so long. I was like, let me get this 12-piece mixed, half spicy, half mild. Just by walking in, maybe I'll get it quicker than sitting in this drive-thru line. And she was about to raise up. I was slowly backing up. I really wanted chicken that night, last night, but she kind of calmed down. She was like, it's only a $2 apple pie. It's fine. Walked out. Then she walked back in. She said, y'all didn't give me my sauce with the order. I was like, I started backing up again, but I already paid my money. It was $25 for the chicken. People are just like impatient. People are just, they're rude. I think the folks behind the counter handled it well. It's only 2.5 people working. Folks ain't coming back to work after the pandemic. So a little patience, a little kindness, but I'm glad it was diffused. Old boy was like, here, just here, just take it all. And so that was the end of it, and I got my chicken.
War was about to break out at the Popeyes. I'm glad you weren't a casualty of that war.
Me too, and we got our chicken.
Still ahead on the Black Report. We're joined by the one and only Loni Love.
One of Detroit's finest. She's talking Black History Month, staying on top of all these years, and what's next for her. You don't want to miss it. Like staying on top all these years, like keeping it moving. Being that chick, that's it. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. We continue to celebrate Black History Month, and we are excited to have, there's two natives on this couch. And we're excited to have none other than, I feel like you need theme music. I just want to go like a Loni Love. Welcome, girl.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have
I
you.
love the Black Report. I watch y'all all the time in LA, 3 o'clock. So.
Yes.
That's right.
3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and 5 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Let's just start off by asking what you're doing here in the D, girl, back home.
You know what? I always love coming back home, especially to help celebrate with brands that actually, are doing things for our community. Yeah. So I'm here with the Ford African Ancestry Network with Ford Motor Company. We're celebrating Black History. It's their 42nd annual Black History event. And we're celebrating local heroes like the first Black justice for the Michigan Supreme Court.
A sister.
Yes. A sister, Kayla Harris Bolden. And then we're also celebrating some wonderful women from Spelman College. It's called the Ford First Generation. And these are all women that are going to Spelman, and this is their first time, like in their family, first generation of people going to college. So we're celebrating that tonight. And it's always nice to come back and melt this ice. Y'all had an ice storm in Detroit. So, shout out, and it's just nice to be here.
Do you miss the weather?
No. Me nor my wigs miss the weather.
I know that's right.
Well, as a native California, I'm missing California. But speaking of California, this weekend is the NAACP Image Awards.
Yes.
You are an NAACP Image Award winner. You've hosted the NAACP Image Awards in the past. What advice would you give to those historic first in the making that are about to make history at this year's NAACP?
Well, first of all, it's very historic because this is the first time for Entertainer of the Year for the NAACP Image Award. They're all women. You have Viola Davis, you have Quinta Bronson, you have Zendaya, and you have, I'm missing one more person, but they're all sisters and they're all deserving. Oh, Angela Bassett. How can I forget my beloved?
The queen.
The queen mother.
Yes.
And I'm really, my advice would be to enjoy the moment, to enjoy the process. For the NAACP Awards, those are our Black Oscars. Those are our Black Golden Globes. So when things get overlooked, like when Viola Davis got overlooked for an Oscar nomination for the wonderful movie, The Woman King, well, you know what? You can come home because we're going to do it at the NAACP Awards, and you're going to get your flowers. Also, the President's Award is going to be really nice. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are being honored. And so this is why we have to have these type of moments, and it's wonderful to have it during the month of Black History because it's important for us to show people that normally don't get shine, they'll get their shine.
Loni, you've always been like the poster sister for unity, especially amongst the sisters, because a lot of times we're either pitted against ourselves, or we pit ourselves against ourselves, or we're pitted against ourselves. How do you exist in that space because you've always been on some love, hint the name, and then you've always been on some, there's enough room for everybody. And I love the way you've handled the conflict. We've all seen, the prior jobs and what came with that. How have you been able to stay in that space with Hollywood in particular being so competitive, not a lot of roles, especially for sisters? How do you stay in that space?
Well, the way you handle it is with grace. And when you have grace and you understand, then you can sit there and you can let things happen. You have to also let the process play itself out. I think that, sometimes we're so busy to want to react because we feel like I got to look a certain type of way or people are going to feel, no. Let the process play itself out, but you have to give grace. This is a very hard industry. I mean, just, last year, it was 4 different hosts. Now I'm coming, I'm like, wait, what happened to the other one? That's how quickly things change, but that doesn't mean that, the old hosts were bad or whatever. It's just a difference. It's a change, and everything happens with change. I tell anybody, whatever you are meant to do, you study it, you just keep driving, and you will get your break. And I believe in that. But you also have to have grace, especially in a very competitive field.
And speaking of grace, let's talk about the grace, God's grace. You just had a health scare. You had your gallbladder removed.
Yes.
It was a big story in People magazine. Sometimes we forget that health is wealth. We spend so much time sort of, chasing the next opportunity and chasing that check, but we forget to check in on ourselves.
Let me tell y'all.
Tell us a little bit about your health journey.
When I did that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I felt a little pain. And I was like, this don't feel right. And I got insurance. So I said, you know what? Since I got insurance, let me go to the doctor. Yeah,
that's
you know what I mean?
Though. That's important,
and that's why I'm telling people.
Right.
I was like, I went to the emergency, and when they saw the insurance I had, they was like, "Come on."
They gave you all the insurance from A to Z.
Because I was like, I didn't know if it was my appendix or whatever. And so then the doctor told me, he said, well, it's actually your gallbladder, and a stone was passing, and that was causing the pain. And he said, and so he gave me a really good talk, and he said, you really don't need your gallbladder. We're going to take it out. They wouldn't even let me out the hospital because I was like, ooh, this pain is hurting. And so I woke up instantly from my surgery, and I said, I'm going to make a video. I wasn't expecting it to be picked up because, I don't think, you don't think like that. Yeah. My intention was to tell my people in my community, get your blood work done. Go to the doctor. Even if you don't have insurance, go to a free clinic. Blood work tells a lot. It'll give you your numbers about your cholesterol, your high blood pressure. It'll tell you about your heart, your liver. And we're so busy sometimes, putting booty injections and, doing all kind of stuff that we don't do the basic things because in order for us to have a good quality of life. That was my only intention. And so I woke up, I was feeling good. And I just made a video saying that health is wealth. You can't do nothing if you sick.
That's true. But that's the beauty of Loni Love. See, you think you're regular, but you're not.
I'm regular. I'm from Detroit.
You're regular. You're from Detroit, but you're not. And no, that's why I think people really clue in on you and they really come to you because they know it's real and they know it comes from a regular filter and a regular perspective. But you ain't regular, girl.
You're so sweet.
And we are so glad that you spent some time with us today. Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
Yes.
Go get all the Detroit favorites before you fall out of here.
I am. Our thanks to Loni Love for joining us right here on Fox Soul's
My
Black
people.
Report.
I love you.
We know we can catch you also on the red carpet because you're going to be hosting the red carpet for for the Oscars.
For the Oscars.
Right?
And I have a new movie coming out called Binge to Death, so check it out.
Yes, Lord.
Our thanks to you. We'll be right back.
Loni Love!
Black Report.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Mattel has created a Barbie in the likeness of legendary aviator Bessie Coleman. It's all a part of their Inspiring Women series.
That's right. The doll's release honors her birthday that was on January 26th, as well as the start of Black History Month. Now, in the 1920s, very few Americans had even set foot in an airplane, but Bessie Coleman, also known as Queen Bessie, broke dual barriers of gender and race, becoming the first Black and Native American female pilot. And almost 100 years after her tragic death in a plane accident in 1926, she's still inspiring generations. Mattel has added Coleman to the Barbie doll collection for their Inspiring Women series, allowing young minds to explore Coleman's adventures for themselves.
Very nice. Now, Coleman joins other legends immortalized by Barbie, including Tina Turner, Madam C.J. Walker, Naomi Osaka, and Dr. Maya Angelou, one of your faves.
Yes, they are all simply the best.
Oh, okay, you better rock on. All right, make it work, make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is incredible. I mean, and we talked a lot about some of the women that are being celebrated on the quarter, right? And another mentor, an inspiration to me, Pauli Murray's being celebrated. We saw famed Afro-Latina
Cecilia de la Cruz.
Yeah, Cecilia Cruz being celebrated as well. And so I think this is great. It's great, coming off of Black History Month, heading into Women's History Month, really celebrating, these luminaries
and it's
whose
also
light still continues to shine bright.
And it's also a chance to do a deeper dive because, I heard about Queen Bessie, the aviator, in passing, but never took a deeper dive. There was actually a plane crash that she survived, and she just kept going and kept living out her dreams.
She had 2 plane crashes?
Yeah. Now the second one in 26 she didn't survive, but there was another plane crash that she did survive. So she was just fearless. So I just pick up fearlessness. I just pick up a renegade. A maverick. And so for that strength and then for that Tao to look so the authenticity of the Tao, the way Mattel has been able to exude that energy through that Tao. It's great not only for the young girls who play play with Barbies, but for the older adults who collect and just learn a little bit more about the history of what that particular Barbie represents.
And speaking of the history of what folks represent, I mean, Maya Angelou, oh my goodness, one of my sister friends who's watching, Yemi Adebomere, she went to Wake Forest. And she was a student and a mentee of Dr. Angelou. And, it just has so many different stories and experiences that some of which she has shared about just sort of being in that energy. I had a chance to meet Dr. Angelou not once but twice, and she just felt like heaven on earth.
Yeah, she really does. I hosted an event at the Smithsonian in DC, and she was the guest, and I was like,
incredible.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, time now to meet Arlo Washington, the founder and CEO of People Trust Community Federal Credit Union, the first and only Black-owned financial institution in the entire state of Arkansas.
So here's the story. Back in 2009, when the last payday lending storefront in Little Rock closed for business, he realized that there was a need for financial services. So he started offering low-interest, small-dollar loans using funds that he set aside from his barber college.
And that effort eventually expanded into the People Trust Community Loan Fund that later inspired him to start a credit union. Washington pushed through and became just one of the 4 new credit unions chartered in the United States in 2022.
Talking about, we just talked about mavericks and folks who are on the front lines of change and being the change. I mean, he was, a successful entrepreneur, and he has a backstory to it. Just didn't automatically happen for him. There was a process he went through to put himself in position to be able to help his community and to go from pretty much, lending money, in the hood to for real chartered credit union is an amazing feat.
I mean, do you all know how hard it is to start any bank, let alone a credit union? I mean, this has got to be federally backed, FDIC insured, all of that, and so, paperwork is daunting for anybody who's starting a business, but I couldn't imagine just the mounds of paperwork and the regulations that folks have to wade through in order to launch a credit union. And so I think it's absolutely incredible. And think about the legacy that he gets to pass on to his family. I just think, that's the thing that Black excellence is made of. Yeah, it's that grit, it's that determination.
This ain't the hood sweet daddy's credit union. This is a for real sweet daddy.
That's a different kind of credit union.
You remember from Good Times when everybody needed to borrow money? All right. Co-founders of the Global Children's Financial Literacy, speaking of money foundation, along with Navy veterans, author Prince Dykes and Shadrick Davis, have launched a kids book club that awards $40,000 worth of stocks and books.
That's right. This nonprofit strives towards providing education and solutions for children's financial literacy, believing that everyone should invest into children at the youngest age possible, as children are quote, the future of the world,
That's
right? I think it was Nippy that said, teach them well, let them lead the way. And they need to be exposed to investing and credit and insurance as soon as possible.
Yeah, so the Global Children's Financial Literacy Foundation also regularly collaborates with local schools, parents, and businesses and youth organizations to help bring a dramatic improvement in the grassroots across America when it comes to educating our young people very early on, because I can remember, getting an offer for a credit card. I was a freshman in college, thought I was grown.
You too? Was it Chase?
It was, I don't know. It was for, I don't know. You ain't gonna have them looking for me. It was for $500. I thought I was doing something, and it wasn't until after I messed it up when my dad was like, see, I done told you, But
did he make you pay it, or did he take care of it?
I don't know who made me pay it. If it ever got paid.
Let me not give you up.
He did not rescue me in that sense, So, but if I had a better understanding, and it was crazy because it was just me being fast and trying to be grown, because my dad was an entrepreneur. He knew he knew that financial structure, and what I was just trying to be grown and mess that thing up. And if I had just taken time, or maybe if something was just like put in front of me more so, before the credit card application got to me, maybe I would have handled that much better. But that was my first lesson. About what, 18, 19?
Financial literacy matters, and we don't get enough of it, and we need a whole lot more of it, so that, folks don't have to take on any unnecessary credit card debt or student loan debt, right?
Or put something in your child's name.
Have them sign the contract with a crayon.
Yeah, you 2 years old with a cable bill.
Don't make no sense. All right, well, it's time. It's time now to highlight the advancements and accomplishments within our culture.
Yep, time now for Today in Black History. So on this day in 1977, professional boxer and boxing promoter Floyd Mayweather Jr. was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's about 2 hours west of Detroit. Mayweather comes from a family of boxers, including his dad, his uncles, Roger Mayweather and Jeff Mayweather. After high school, Mayweather began his amateur boxing career, and by 1992, he had a record of 84 wins, 8 losses, but retired in 2017 with a perfect 50-0 record. He is still the man. All righty, still ahead, Rihanna has something planned for her fans, and it's not an album.
That's right. When we come back, we'll tell you what's next following her huge Super Bowl performance.
Come on, Riri.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report, the place for our news, our views, and our voice. So next up, after dominating at the Super Bowl earlier this month, Rihanna is taking the stage once again.
This time at the Academy Awards, she's set to sing Lift Me Up from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. The song is nominated for Best Original Song, which happens to be Rihanna's first Oscar nomination. The Academy Awards are coming up March 12th, which isn't too far from now, seeing as we're in the last days of February already. There's been a lot of mixed reviews, on this song. I think some people were being very gentle because, Rihanna hasn't been out with music in a while. And some people are just diehard Rihanna fans. So, she could probably sing a baby lullaby and it'd be a hit for the Navy. But for some people, they were like, not so much feeling this one.
So can I let you in on a joke? So when I first read this story and I read that she was singing Lift Me Up, I thought, oh my goodness, this is major. This is so big. I said, Rihanna's gonna sing a gospel song at the Academy Awards.
You didn't realize it was...
I didn't realize it was the Black Panther Lift Me Up.
I just feel like the song just stays right...
Lift him up.
...here and really doesn't go anywhere else. But I think for the moment, especially when you add in such the heavy loss and all the emotion surrounding the sequel, I think it works. But as far as just a standalone song, it stays right.
I think you are such a musician. I think you hear it differently, right? Yeah. I think you're able to zero in on some of the technical stuff.
I didn't hear a climax. Normally,
But for those of us that are less technical, we're just like, okay, that's a bop. This is a bop.
Lift Me Up by Rihanna is a bop?
It's a bop.
Moving on, Matthew Griffith, also known as Stanky Leg. This is real serious here. The rapper, Old Boy Prince, was struck in the face by an 18-wheeler's brake pad. Could you imagine, while driving in the far left lane of a freeway in Dallas-Fort Worth? This was back on January the 6th. In a recent interview, he says the brake pad just flew off the truck and hit his car windshield, dashboard, and then his face before landing in their son's car seat in the back seat. Griffith had to undergo 3 surgeries to reconstruct his face and mouth and has been recovering since the accident. There is a GoFundMe page that was set up, which raised almost $1,500 for the rapper's recovery. What a scary moment. We talk about, highway safety, and we talk about, trucks and tractor trailers, get a bad rap with, maintenance and safety. But for something so freakish to happen like this, and just imagine if it sounds like it bounced off a couple of different objects before it unfortunately landed on his face. Could you imagine more of a direct hit? He may not have survived that. So we're glad that he's here. We're glad that he's on the mend. And when I first read it, I was like, what are the chances? What are the chances?
It made me think of almost like a scene from the movie Final Destination. That's how much of a freak accident it was. I think I checked a couple different sources to make sure it wasn't like fake news or anything like that, but it's real news, and it's really absolutely terrible. It reminds me of a friend of my mom's who was on the freeway, and something had flown off a truck and hit her windshield, and she had to have a number of procedures to have glass removed from her eye. And so it's just a reminder that even just driving on the freeway has its own dangers.
And big ups to that community for pulling together and supporting them financially. Stanky Leg is iconic, it's legendary. There's a dance that comes with that, and so that song continues to live on even after the money may dry up. So big ups to people tapping in and helping them out with something that was so unfortunate and so unforeseen. So,
and hopefully even more people will give to that GoFundMe account. Moving along, People magazine just released a list of 10 classic TV shows that celebrate Black History Month. They describe these shows as trailblazing, zeitgeist-setting, and thought-provoking shows. One of the first shows on the list is Julia, a little bit before my time, but it starred Diane Carroll as a Black woman in a non-servant role. There's also Sanford and Son, which features a predominantly Black cast, hat tip to Red Fox. They were also recognized for their breakthrough work on network television. Other shows on the list include The Jeffersons and The Cosby Show, A Different World, Martin, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. These shows are being praised for their casting, their themes, and writing. And might I add, for the diversity both in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Yeah, Julia was a little bit before me, but I can go way back to The Jeffersons. It came on Sunday night, either 9 or 9:30, because my dad loved The Jeffersons. He really connected with George Jefferson as a fellow entrepreneur himself, and coming from nothing and building something. And so I got to watch The Jeffersons every Sunday night before bed.
If I grew my hair out, I would look like George Jefferson.
Not really.
I'm talking about the way my hair pattern grows. There'd be an afro on the side. I look like George Jefferson.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But I know as a kid, I was amazed that they were able to say the N-word. Because I remember George Jefferson saying the N-word on television. This is back in the early to mid 70s. And even as a kid, a young kid in single digits, I knew that was wild. Fast forward to today and us talking about how revolutionary these TV shows were, it makes a little bit more sense of how really radical that was, and how these shows really moved the culture.
And we haven't had a lot of TV shows on television quite like that since. I mean, I think Blackish sort of comes close. I think there's sort of notes of that, but you're right. These were trailblazing shows, and
hit TV shows.
And we wouldn't have the sitcoms that we currently have right now had it not been for these shows.
I agree with that. Good shows. And they continue to live on, whether it be online or some channel that runs them in syndication. So it's good from generation to generation, they still get to see some of that Blackness.
Claire Huxtable never gets old.
Ever. All right, get ready to rock out at the Roots Picnic Music Festival 2023. This year's lineup is led by Miss Lauryn Hill, Hill, and yes, she will be on time. Diddy and the Roots alongside Dave Chappelle. Y'all better leave Sister Lauren alone. Lil Uzi Vert will be there as well. Other cool acts include Ari Lennox. I love her. Her real name is Courtney. City Girls, I love them too. Maverick City Music, great gospel artist. During the festival, Lauryn Hill will celebrate the 25th anniversary of her debut album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And it's not just music. There will also be some podcast personalities there as well. Tickets for both the pre-show and the festival are available now on the Roots Picnic website. And the Roots, they have just like transcended everything that you thought the Roots were, is. You know, they are just those dudes. I watch them pretty much every night on the Tonight Show, because just I love their artistry. I love their movement. I love how they, you know, represent the culture and how they've each individually and collectively evolved. They bring this wonderful, wonderful event together, and it sounds like it's gonna be a good one.
Look, run, don't walk to get your tickets. You know, I think this is going to be an extraordinary lineup, and you know, I'm thinking of The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That album, we wore that album out when I was in high school. My friend, one of my best friends, Jazz, is watching, and he will attest to how much we wore that album out. And so I can't believe it's been 25 years since The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. The album was so great. I think the only other album she's done since then is that Unplugged, the MTV Unplugged album. And so.
But all of those albums right there in that sweet spot were fantastic. I know Jill Scott got robbed by the pandemic because her debut album turned 20 in the year 20, I think came out in 2000. But now you got Erykah Badu's album, 20 years plus. Mary J's album, 20 years plus, going on 30. You got Lauren's album. So that sweet spot of music, D'Angelo, is just amazing.
Sort of neo-soul period.
To look back and say that this was 20, 25, 30 years ago, it's amazing, because for me, the 90s was just 10 years ago still, for me. It's just amazing to believe how old, but how vintage and classic and iconic these albums have become.
And I think that's part of what makes this concert so exciting. It features so many acts that have aged well, and their work has aged well over time, right? And so that's part of the reason why we don't feel all that old, you know, because, you know, if that music can age well over time, so can we.
Well, it gets greater later. Let me just tell you that. Turn 50 plus and see what happens.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Okay, we gotta go.
Coming up on the Black Report, we're celebrating Black excellence.
Our favorite time of the show. We'll tell you all about how one young chef is cooking up change in our community and making history at the same time. FOXSOUL's Black Report is on the way. Will you look at that? Will you look at that?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, man.
Charlie Mitchell is the first Black chef to win the prestigious Michelin's Young Chef Award in New York City.
That's pretty big. The Detroit native, all this Detroit love today. The Detroit native is the executive chef of the Michelin-starred Clover Hill restaurant. That's in Brooklyn Heights. He dropped out of culinary school, check this, preferring to perfect his craft on the job, working at top-notch restaurants.
That's right. Mitchell says a lot of times we're chasing a very different American dream when to kind of put up these aggressive environments, they're often led by people who don't look like us. And he's also a finalist for a James Beard Emerging Chef Award.
Congratulations to him. All right, so let's move on to twin sisters who are named valedictorian and salutatorian.
2 and 2.
We're still in New York here at a high school there, taking the #1 and #2 spot at the West Hempstead Secondary School this year with I don't understand this, a 105.3 and 104.9 GPA. What the hell is that? Finishing in the top 5 of their class. I never heard of those GPAs.
I would imagine you're like
the
top, like beyond the top 5, like the top.
Right.
Gloria and Victoria Guerreri are twins, and they do everything together, including being named valedictorian and salutatorian. Year after year, they've chosen the most rigorous advanced courses available, never earning lower than a perfect 100% on their transcripts.
That's amazing. All right, so these fraternal twins have always been super competitive with each other, as they are also accomplished track and field athletes.
It's extraordinary, extraordinary. Hat tip to them. Well,
That's right.
Atlanta has been one of America's most popular cities for decades. Now the ATL is home to the most Black-owned businesses in the nation.
Like no surprise here, reports say among the 50 metro cities in America with the most Black-owned businesses, Atlanta had the highest percentage with 7.4%. Lending Tree officials say we, quote, tend to glamorize entrepreneurship, but the truth is that it is often grueling, all-consuming work. That's the end of that quote. Truth there. Now, there are many organizations like the Black Business Association, U.S. Black Chambers, and the Small Business Administration that have resources to help soulmates with building business plans, training, promotion, networking, and building capital. So you are not on your own, although we've talked plenty of times about the challenges of being a Black business owner, namely the fact that you just can't get access to the money you need to start it up and maintain it.
That's the big part of it. That's the big hurdle that so many Black businesses have to jump over. It's access to capital, right? And so helping me with my business plan, helping me, with training and all of that, that's great. Those are important building blocks, but let's not forget one of the most important building blocks of all, access to capital. That's going to allow you to invest in your business. It's going to allow us to invest in employees. And it's going to allow us to invest in that research and development that helps us to perfect whatever product or service we're offering.
My dad was a business owner all his life. In my opinion, his life was cut a little short. He was only 52 when he passed, but he owned his own business that whole time. And when he wasn't able to get access to cash, because that was my summer job, he was able to go to neighboring communities, whether, if it wasn't another brother who had a little access to capital. I remember he had a very good business partner who was of the Arabic community. So he was able to circumvent the banks who wouldn't believe in his dream or wouldn't believe in his vision. And then when he became able-bodied, he made sure that he continued to reach out and he was able to finance other people's visions and dreams. And still to this day, they'll catch my last name and they'll be like, was your dad Jefferson Hicks? And I go, yeah, he gave me my first job, or he helped me start this and helped me start that. So, there's definitely some discrimination when it comes to gaining hold of this capital that we need, this money that we need. But you got sometimes, just as Black folks of color, we get very creative and find other ways to finance that, other streams of money to finance that legally. So, there's a story of hope there and encouragement there, is that we've always been very resilient and we have just always found a way. Yeah.
Making a way out of no way.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on today's FOXSOUL Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Have a lovely weekend, and don't forget, stay lifted.